Hello, everyone. Here's an introduction to humanizing the other. It's also known as transforming enemy images. I'll say a few words about why this practice is essential as we move into more collaborative initiatives that the world so desperately needs, and then guide us through an exercise of humanizing the other. So the person who most benefits from doing this process is yourself, as you process judgments or enemy images or any kind of othering that you do of another person. Because when we see someone else as unable to change or as bad or as dangerous, what that does to us is lead us into a kind of despair or hopelessness about change when we see the other person as unable to change. So that's one of the primary benefits of doing this. Something shifts in us around our own despair or hopelessness. It's easy to create enemy images of people who are different from us. And what we most need at the moment is relationships with people who are different from us, that we manage to connect across our differences. And this process can really support that as it connects me to my deeper needs underneath the judgments that I have, and connects me to what the other person's deeper needs might be underneath any actions that they may be doing. Because this kind of work, humanizing the other, enemy images, connects us to our own hurt and to our needs. And our well-being depends on the right kind of connection, the right quality of connection to our own needs. And judgments tend to protect us from the sadness and the hurt and the grief. We create judgments as a way of dealing with unmet needs. And the MVC process is very much about connecting to our unmet needs when they are there, as a way of moving forward and as a way of allowing grief, being with that pain. Very often we have judgments because it seems to be the only option open to us, because within judgments is essential information about what's not working for us. And sometimes we just get a bit stuck on the judgment. And actually, if we dive into the deeper territory of our feelings and needs, we can find other ways of meeting those needs other than through this kind of despairing judgment that we have of others. So I hope that's a little bit of the groundwork or the rationale for doing this kind of work. And you might want to stop there and come back to the exercise, or you might want to carry on right now. I'm going to introduce you to an exercise which I'm calling LASER, and that's an acronym for the 5 different steps of the process. So the L stands for the load or the judgment. The A stands for the action that's happened. S is for self-empathy. E is for empathy for the other. And R is for reflection and requests. So I suggest that you, if you're free writing this, you stop after each step and write for as long as you want to. If you're doing this together with someone, also you can stop the recording and take as long as you need to. You'll probably need between 30 minutes and half an hour to do this. Sorry, between 30 minutes and an hour to do this. So L, first step. What is the load that you're carrying? So this is space for all of the judgments about why the other person is unable to change, why the other person is dangerous, why what the other person has done is wrong and bad, and everything that is about the other person. So stop the recording now and write down the load of your judgments. So moving on to step 2, which is the action, the observable action that this person has said or done or hasn't said or done. So there's a subtle shift here of just taking away a little bit the judgment, one layer of the judgment into what the person has done. So instead of, they really dominate meetings, it could be at the last meeting, they spoke at length and interrupted me 3 times. And see if you can kind of frame what your grief is in that kind of observable language. See if that already does a little shift. So stop the recording now and see if you can capture that in observational action language. So moving on to step 3, which is empathy, self-empathy, S. So how are you feeling when in the face of this judgment, if you think someone is really dominating meetings? Connect to your feelings of helplessness or powerlessness or frustration or anger, maybe even some hurt, stuckness, and see what needs that they are linked to. A need for empowerment or agency, equality, ease of meetings. Keep connecting to these feelings and needs until you have a sense of, yeah, that's really what I want, really how I want our meetings to be. Until something shifts in you, until something opens in you. This is a transformative process. So if you're just going straight back to the judgment, you need to slow it down and spend a little bit more time with you. That feeling of frustration, just connect to it. Where is it in the body? How does it manifest? And this feeling, this need for equality, that everyone can be included in meetings. Just spend a few moments on that until you get a sense of, oh yeah, that would be so nice. That's what I want. That's really what I want. So stop the recording and give yourself some time to explore all of your feelings and needs around this. And moving on to step 4, which is empathy for the other person. So again, see if you have experienced a bit of a shift of connection to your own feelings, now connect to what's going on for the other person. What do you imagine they're feeling as they do this act? And what are their needs? Is it around needs for being empowered, for agency, for effectiveness? Maybe there's a need for insight into how things could be different, need for learning, or maybe a need for safety, that this is the only way that feels safe for them. See if you can explore this in a way that, with real curiosity, in which there's no blame for the other person. That can be quite liberating, to just lift away the sense of blame and judgment into deep and generative curiosity for what's going on for them. And again, do this until you kind of have a sense of shift. It doesn't need to be a huge shift, just a little bit of, yeah, I get that. I might do that as well. Or, yeah, I can really see that they're trying to meet a need for safety. You can really feel that. Just only needs to be a tiny shift of acknowledgement, which does quite a lot of work in moving you through a situation. So again, stop the recording and have some fun trying to connect to this other person's feelings and needs, and be aware of the guesses that kind of undermine the person, in not a very supportive way. It's like, yeah, they really need safety. They're so insecure, that has an edge of judgment to it. Really watch out for those. We're trying to find needs that connect us as human beings and are not a way to kind of put them down or to perpetuate the judgment. So just watch out for those. The need might still be the same, but it's how you connect to it, the judgments you have around it. So stop the recording and see how you get on with that. And then the fifth step is to reflect, a little bit of reflection on how are you feeling right now after having gone through that, either through writing or with someone else. Does something feel different? Has something shifted? If you have a sense of, I feel done now, I'm ready to move on, it feels good to have connected to this, then you've kind of done the work. If the judgment is still there, then it's good to acknowledge that it's still there, and there's some deeper needs of yours. So maybe try this process again in a week's time or something, or with more support. Because just remember that the judgment is pointing to an unmet need of yours, and there are many ways of meeting that need. So there's some deeper exploration there. And if you're holding on to judgment, there are very, very real reasons that you're doing so. And R is also for requests. There may be some requests to yourself for further support, or for direct dialogue with someone, or to give yourself a break, to give yourself a pat on the back for this self-responsibility. Because ultimately this is a practice of self-responsibility, of taking responsibility for your feelings and needs, and not diverting all of your feelings and needs into one judgment, which isn't very connecting. So it's taking responsibility for yourself, for your own needs, and for the relationship, and for the collaborative adventure that you're participating in. So well done for going through this process. Give me some comments and feedback below, and I'll see you again for another video. Be well.